Today, I'm bringing you a different type of review video. We're going to be looking at this guy right here, which, even though it looks a bit unique, is actually a webcam. So we're going to be taking a closer look at this. It is the Czur Fancy S Pro webcam, and this is going to be a unique video because I'm going to be pretending that this is a lecture to show you how good this guy works if you were to try to do it yourself, because I figure the main target demographic for this guy is going to be lecturers or teachers or people who are wanting to show off what their desk is, so streamers and that kind of stuff. So let's look at how easy it is to manipulate this guy. The two things that I'm mostly going to be using right now, my Logitech 4K Brio webcam, and then of course this guy right here. We will be taking a closer look at it, so without further ado, let's dive in. Czur did send this out to me for review, however that will not influence my opinion in any way, shape, or form, and they are seeing this video at the same time you are and had zero influence over it. This is the Czur Visualizer software. In order to get this, it's actually pretty easy. All you have to do is, here we are on just normal Google. I'm just gonna type in Czur, and then it's the first thing that pops up. I'm going to go over here to Documents and Webcam. This is the actual webcam. We're going to come back to that later. But if I open another tab here, I'm going to go into Download Software. Then you just come down here to the Fancy S Pro. Then you download it either for Mac because it does work for Mac, or for Windows. This is Windows, so I downloaded that. I'm not going to run you through it because I'm sure that you've installed something in your life at this point. And then over here, you've got the Czur Visualizer. I've already got it open, and bam, you can see my face. So over here, to give you a quick overview of this type of software, it's kind of neat. You have this writing tool that you can do. Control Z undoes that. You also have an eraser, so if I were to write something like that, I could just click the eraser over here and it deletes it. You also can do like boxes, you can do text, you can do a little laser pointer. So if I was trying to show you this Lee Child book, I could highlight it, which is kind of fun. And then you have kind of like a zoom in, so you could zoom into that or another product or something like that, which is neat. This just undoes everything. I'm going to undo that again. This clears annotations, and then you have just your normal mouse again. You can change the different colors if you want to for whatever you want. So if I was wanting yellow, I could go to yellow, and then I could go to red, and so on and so forth. This is great. So if you're teaching math or you're trying to do something like that, you have your different colors that you could kind of work on your whiteboard. You can also do like dotted lines if you want to do, or solid, and then just different spacings. You can put on a grid if you wanted to. As you can see there, it puts on the grid. Sometimes I find this to be kind of easier. That's a flashing annotation, which I'm going to be honest, I have no idea what it does. And then you have this and that. The other thing that I think is pretty neat is down here you have different windows. So if you had a different USB, you could plug that in. And then if you have two USBs, you can have 3 streams of webcams going at a time in this program. However, as far as I could tell, there isn't any streaming, so it's not like an OBS or something like that that you could be doing all of your stuff off of. But so right now I have OBS on my other screen that is then screen recording everything that you're seeing on this screen. And then last you have zoom, so you can zoom in a lot if you want to. If I can actually find it, there you go. So close, way too close for my face. And then you can rotate if you want to. I'm going to revert that, and then you can, this is kind of an interesting, like just kind of positioning if you want. And then the same thing with the vertical, which I just think is kind of interesting. And then last, you can swap, so I can be either way, or you can inverse. Moving on, and then you've got your recording right there, and then you've got your save right here. If you go up into the corner over here, you have the different versions. You have where to save your photos along with the different formats. You have the video with the different one format, what's the save path and all that stuff. And then you have all your shortcuts, which I think is really cool. And then especially if you were trying to be like a teacher or something, you could be touching your, keyboard to do like brush and stuff like that, which I like. Over here in the top corner, you have which camera you're doing. So right now I have the Logitech Brio with the different formats, the different hertz and all that stuff. So you can go through and do all the things that you want to do here. I'm going to switch over to the Czur Fancy. Now we've swapped over to the Czur Fancy. I'm going to do this right here so you can actually see my face, although it's all jacked up. So I'm going to go over here, go to 1920. So that way I look a little more presentable. And as you can see, you have this huge screen where you can show off the camera itself. So moving this down, that's what it looks like to me. And then bringing that back up to see my face. So let's get to the unboxing. As you can see, one of the issues that I'm having with this guy right here is that I've got it at its max height, but for 1920 by 1080, it's just not simply enough wide field of view, and that's something that I struggled with continually with this guy. You can move out to 4K, so to speak, even though it kind of stretches it a little bit weird. Okay, so after some technical difficulties, I am back. So what I was trying to say before is at 1920 by 1080, the field of view just isn't super great. Sometimes you can go to 4000 by 3000, which is technically 4K, and that's why they're saying this is a 4K camera. However, every time I do that, as you can see right here, it'll kind of go into this weird black screen, and then it won't actually really show. It'll tell me a video stream error, blah, 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 blah. I don't know why this is happening. I'm not going to spend a tremendous amount of time trying to troubleshoot it, so I'm just going to go back down to 1920 by 1080p. I will say that when I was able to get this to work at 4K, that it did look really good, and pretty much what it does is it just zooms out. So for example, if I can switch over to my Logitech Brio and see if this one will actually work correctly. If, as you can see right now, I'm at 640 by 480. If I go up to 4K, you can just see that the quality of everything is just a lot more sharper. So that's what you're getting even with in the case of this camera. So if you're at a higher resolution, you have more pixels to deal with. Because you have more pixels, you have less blurring, which means things are a little more sharper, and it does usually work. I don't know why it's not working. I also have a top line PC, so it's definitely not that my specs on my PC aren't working. I think there's just some software issue of my computer's confused, because I've got OBS running, I've got some other programs in the background that are, I think, confused on what program should be using what camera, right? So I think part of that is just a software issue on my computer, but your results may vary there depending on your higher resolution, and could be something that would be really frustrating during a lecture if that was not working correctly. Anyways, I'm going to put this back to 1920 by 1080 because I can. Other thing, when you're on the Czur Fancy as well at 4K, it's one of those that you have 15 frames per second, where with the 1080p, you have 60 frames per second. It does vary in the software. So right here, you can see that my frame rate is 30 frames right now for the Logitech Brio. If I switch back over to the Czur Fancy, it's going to be kind of close to 30 as well. I thought that I read that there was 62 when I'm in OBS. I can see 60, but I don't know if it's actually running at that. So I feel like it's closer to a 1920 by 1080 30 frames per second frame rate, but we'll be looking at the specs a little bit later. Anyways, this is the actual box. I'm actually going to switch over to my Logitech Brio because I don't think you can actually see the box, and then we're going to do a quick unboxing. Okay, so here's the box itself. It's just kind of styrofoam. You've got this thing off, tear it off, rip it off, open up, and it's so majestic. It looks so good in here. Inside, you've got a USB-A to USB-C adapter, which actually looks pretty high quality. Then you've got your user guide and information, and then you've got the product itself. The USB is flat, which is nice. It's also pretty relatively long. You've got some controls on the top, and then on the bottom, you've got some rubber feet that makes it not move. So this is also what I'm talking about. So with my Brio, you can see that I have a lot more wider field of view. And if I actually go into this little guy, click that, I'm only at 78 degrees. I could zoom in at 65, or I can go all the way out to 90, which means I have even more room, which I think is just fantastic. For looking a little bit closer at the camera, since I've already got this up, it's pretty neat if I can get this to focus the correct way. All right, everything is reversed on me, so I'm going to try my best to actually press the buttons that I'm looking for. Right here is your light. If you press that, it has 3 modes of brightness, as you could kind of see there. Next up, you have your exposure plus and minus, and I'll show you what that actually looks like in real time in a minute. And then right here, you have your focus button, which I think is brilliant, which is my Logitech is missing right now, which would be great if that would actually... If this actually had it, I could just press the button and it would focus correctly. And then you have your autofocus here. Again, it's not showing super great, that you can switch to different modes. And then last, you have this other button right here, which is going to swap everything out. So I'm going to show you how that all looks on the actual camera right now. All right, so here we have my Logitech cam, and then right here we've got the Czur. Using the Final Mouse as my test product, I can do 3 modes of brightness. So that's 1. That's 2, and then that's 3. So I'm going to do the second one because I think that one's working out the best. Then what's neat is if I'm trying to zoom in on this and I bring it really close, I can press the focus button on the camera and it'll zoom in. And you can also just tell the quality, that you can actually see the little specks and everything like that inside of this, I think is insane, of just how good this is at actually showing off the little tiny details. And this is what happens when you allow a dog to sleep on your desk, is you get little tiny hairs everywhere. But it's just fascinating of how good, or just the fact that if I click this, you can see the little pores inside of my mouse pad, which is insane. The quality, for the top-down view, really like it. Moving over, I can do the 180, so if I wanted to swap my thing, it's super easy to swap it. And then if I'm wanting less brightness, I can do that immediately, or if I want a lot more, I can do that as well, which I think is also really neat that I have all of the controls on the device itself. They also have 2 different modes of autofocus, which is going to be continuous, which means something like this where I'm moving everything around, it's going to be better on continuous, where if I'm taking a photo of something, it'd be better to go on the other one, because then it'll focus in and it won't be as continuous. But I'm going to switch it over continuous since that's what we're doing. The other thing that's pretty neat about this is if I actually twist the top here, it twists the view of the camera itself, actually twists inside of the housing, which I think is just really awesome. The next thing, you have your adjustments right here. So all of your kind of beige color is going to be different types of adjustment. I'm not going to adjust any of that because I actually find it to be perfect right now. That'd be the other one that you can adjust. And then of course you can go in and out as well. They've got a little rubber piece right here, which is pretty nice, that you can, let me switch these cameras actually. You've got a little rubber piece right there that you can use that's going to keep that nice and soft, so you're not going to be banging that around. You've got a rubber piece up here as well that you're not going to be banging around. Again, this is the reason why I was interested in this, is the top down of my Logitech Brio is awful, but the top down for this is absolutely brilliant. You've also got some rubber feet on the bottom. All of this down here too is made of aluminum and is got some weight and heft to it to be able to allow for, you know, the arm to do its thing, which is great. The movement is nice and smooth for everything, and it also is relatively compact. I like that the blue button, you know that it's actually plugged in. So for the most part, I find this to be a great device. One of the other reasons why I wanted this device was to see how it would work as just a normal webcam. But if we switch this here, going to press the button once I can find it. So immediately swaps me over. And then what's nice too is since it's got a light, you can press the light and then I look pretty good. But wow, I feel like this camera is so close. Right now it's probably 2 feet away from me and it is super close, where my Logitech Brio camera is going to be the same distance away. And as you can see, it's just, I feel like a better, just zoomed out more. I feel like this one is very close. So I feel like instead of using this as an actual webcam, it would be better if you used it as more of a top-down camera only. Although, as you can see some of the rough textures of my face. I feel like it comes off a little bit red. The colors are not as accurate as I would necessarily like. But what I also like is that if I was doing a video call or something like that, that I could line it up directly to eyesight, which I find to be a lot more intimate and great from a, you know, if you're talking to somebody, it's going to be a lot better if you do this. And then since this is on a base, you could actually move this. You can't see this, but now you're right in the middle of my screen and I could be looking past you at your actual face while I was talking to you. And you can kind of tell that my vision, because you're so stinking close, that it's a little bit off. But if depending on your area, you could swap it up. The other thing is with that USB-C, with this USB-C dongle thing, that's also nice is if you've got, say, a MacBook. I'm going to switch over to Logic Brio because I want more distance. You can actually see what I'm saying. Say you've got a MacBook or something like that. It only takes USB-C. You can use the little dongle. It would plug into your USB-C. And then It's nice. You can see that it's powered right there. It's actually pretty nice made. It feels like mostly plastic and stuff. And then you can use this on your MacBook or whatever. The rest of this device, by the way, this all feels like plastic. This feels like plastic. And then this all feels like plastic as well. We have one more test that I want to do really quick, which is just going to switch from my professional microphone over to the microphone from this guy right here. It looks like I'm a little bit loud, so I'm going to turn that down just a smidge so I'm not peaking while I'm talking like a normal voice. I have no idea what this sounds like. I will once I'm in post-production, and then we'll see what it sounds like. So I also think a lot of this stuff is a little washed out based off of my recording in OBS. I'm going to see if I can fix that in my actual editing studio, but I don't think that that's going to be an issue if I'm actually talking and recording through this. So I'm actually going to switch to recording directly through the software itself to see how that compares to what I'm recording with OBS. So right here I've switched over and I'm doing a quick recording to see what the video quality is of this guy. Again, the nice thing that I like is that I can do all these things with it, and then I can do Alt-Z to get it to go away. And then we have one other thing that I want to show with this product, which I think is absolutely brilliant, and another big reason why I think this would be a great deal for teachers or people that are just trying to show things off. All right, so switching over to one of these views, this is one of the textbooks that I'm reading right now for one of my classes, and it's one of those that, as you can see, again, I've got this thing at max height, so I can't go any higher, but yet you can still barely see everything. However, if I were to open it, that's probably not a good one to open on. So if I open it like this, you can clearly see all the text and you can read it. I can press the focus button and it might even do a little bit better. The other thing that I like about in the software right here, you have a focus button as well, and now you can read all of that. And then if I were to switch to another page, you can do that, or to another page, you can do that. And it's nice and clear. You can see everything that I'm doing. Then I could go here, I could kind of flip it, and then you can see what I'm looking at, so I could be reading this and going down and everything like that. Then we could go to like the next page. That's probably not a good page to stop on. And then moving down the list this way. You can also do a scan. So I could go over here. It's going to scan what it thinks is the correct thing, which I found to be very accurate. This one's a little bit longer than I want. And then down here, you would click this button, which is going to save the photo. Then if I go into that actual picture and bring it up, this is what it's going to look like. Like I said, it was just a little bit off, so that one didn't come out super great, so let's try this again. Moving on to a chemistry lab that I was doing the other day. We've got the sheet of paper here, trying to arrange it good inside of the picture itself. We're getting close, right there. And then take the picture, bam. Saved, go into my pictures where that's saved. It opens up. Let's rotate this guy out. And we can look in and it looks really good. I feel like that's pretty darn sharp. It's not perfect, so there's some things that, like, if I'm looking at the paper itself closely, like the comment right here is just a little cut off, but for the most part, and this was a little dull anyways on the paper that I printed, so it's one of those that if you have a higher quality picture, it's going to do a better job, but in general, I feel like that's pretty darn good. When you're looking at that guy from a close point of view, you can really read those pretty darn easy. So I think the picture quality of that and just the sheer ease of use of that was just crazy. Literally you just put it in, you align it, it comes up pretty darn good. And then if you were looking for something, so I've got auto, I could do color, I can do grayscale, I can do all these different things here if I wanted to. So just out of curiosity, if I did a grayscale, let's see what that would look like. So as you can see, it did grayscale where that is not colored like it was on the other one. So there you can see some of the blue. Here you can't see the blue anymore. So that's what it meant by grayscale. So it just does that nice and quickly. And also, if I were to go to a slightly higher resolution, I would usually try to do the 4, but since I'm having some issues with that on this video, I'm not going to do that. Instead, we're going to go to that, which I feel like even easier. There we go. Click that picture, bring it up, rotate it around. I still accidentally had it on grayscale, so let me go back to auto, take the picture, full screen it, bam, bam, bam. Zoom in. Yeah, so that one's was even more clear than the other one, so it'd be better to do the higher resolution compared to the 9. Compared to the 1920, it would be better to do the high resolution. But anyways, as you can see, it's just one of those that the scanning of documents is extremely good on it. Also, if you were wanting to do it yourself, you could measure it out yourself. I'm going to purposely go past the lines on purpose, so when I take the picture, you can actually see that it kind of went over right here. As I'll rotate it around, you can tell that it kind of went over everywhere, but you still have the photo itself. So kind of an interesting little thing. One other thing, just comparing the webcams really quickly as well, it's one of those, as you can see with the Logitech Brio, there's some definitely editing of my face is not usually this smooth, and you'll be able to see what I mean when I say that it's not usually this smooth in a minute. When I switch over to the Czur, as you can see a lot more of the rough patches inside of my face and stuff like that. The color difference is different, but I do think that this is still a cleaner picture. The only complaint that I have is that I actually have to back up if I want to kind of have a more doable type of distance, because I just feel like it is so zoomed in that it's one of those that I would want to sit a lot further away from it. The other nice thing is with it, it's one of those that if I had a laptop or something, this can easily comes up over the laptop so that I could be doing everything on my laptop without any issues and still be talking to this without it weighing down on the screen of my laptop. So just a lot of little tiny things that really do make this camera pretty neat. Along with the LED light means that the low light performance is going to be relatively good as well. I will test that really quick as well. So let me turn off this LED. So this would be like the low light position where I have almost no light in my room right now except for the thing behind me. And guess what? You can actually still see me, which is pretty freaking intense. And then also, let me see if I can, it looks like the exposure for the most part when I'm pressing those isn't actually doing anything. And that was another thing that I wanted to show off really quick. So just to sum up this video really quick, this is a very versatile webcam because you actually have a webcam, you have a document scanner, and you also have the face down review. It's very compact, making it so it can fit in any type of space. I have the hardest time trying to get like good pictures of a keyboard or something like that so often, but with this guy, literally all I have to do is flop it down like that, and then I can press this button, swap it over, and bam, you have this wonderful view where you can see everything that I'm doing with all the different colors. And I just think that, and the color accuracy is actually really good. It's one of those, this orange actually looks like the orange that I'm seeing on my screen right now, which is crazy. I've had the hardest time trying to figure out how to get close-up views of all these types of products, or even zooming into this, pressing the focus button right here, bam, you can see it. You can see the little sparkles. If I tried to do that on most of my other cameras, you just don't get it. And it's just so easy that I really can't, like, genuinely impresses me, because I've had such a hard time trying to get this stupid type of thing for my YouTube videos to actually work, and the fact that this does it so easily makes me quite happy. So it's one of those, I really have been impressed with this. Again, it's one of those, it's a sponsor review, so when I kind of go off glowing about a product, I always feel really bad. But they can improve some things. There's some things that just were not working correctly, such as the 4K. Also, 4000 by 3000 like ratio is weird. It's a super weird ratio. Why are you not doing landscape, which is going to be the thing that most people are doing? Instead, 4000 by 3000 instead of 3840 by 2160 is weird. It's also one of those that, as you can see, for the 4000 by 3000, it's kind of hit or miss on whether that's going to work. The 15 frames per second at that higher resolution is also not super great, because at that point everything's so jittery that you would never be using that anyways. However, at 1080p, it does look really fantastic. By the way, this is the screen that I'm seeing, so that's why I'm pointing over there for those that are looking at me like, why are you pointing? Anyways, and it's also one of those that the adjustability is nice, but it's one of those that it needs a lot higher. It needs to have multiple fields of view, kind of like the Logitech Brio does, where I can, if I wanted to be more zoomed in, I could. And then if I needed to be more zoomed out, I could, because it's also one of those, like for that textbook, it's not very big. For this textbook, it's a big textbook. And in order for me to be able to show off the entire textbook, I would need a lot of room. And it's really hard for me to do that with the adjustment of this. Yes, I could technically probably stack some books and then I would have that field of view and then I could take it. But and then is it going to be sharp enough to actually be able to read what I'm doing? Maybe, maybe not. So it's one of those that I think this is doing a lot of things right. And the light, oh, I love the light because that goes a long way. Low light performance seemed like it was doing pretty good. And in general, it is 60 frames per second. Depending on the software and everything, I get 60 frames in OBS itself. But when I was in their own software, I was having a hard time bouncing between 25 to 30. So again, it's not the perfect piece of tech. It's also relatively expensive, but if this is something that fits your niche, I think you're going to be very satisfied with it. And just in general. So if you're looking for a new webcam, I highly recommend checking out some more information on this guy and doing your own research. There is a link that they provided me in the description. However, that is not an affiliate link, which means I get no kickback whether you click that or buy this product or whatever. So you got to go with whatever product you think is best. Anyways, that's the end of this review. If you liked it, give a like. If you didn't, give a dislike. And of course, if you've been following my content for a while, hit that subscribe button. Otherwise, I will see you and your beautiful face on the next one. God bless and peace out.